I'm at a point where I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to change the trajectory of that legacy. I've done some research on my family and found that we did have some land here in Jacksonville, and I've just hit a bunch of brick walls, and so I've decided to just try to do as much as I can to make it a better, economic history for and legacy for our family.
There really isn't one. The economic legacy and the passed down inheritances weren't there. So we, like the traditional Africans, pass things down oratorically through our stories, through our traditions, our dances, what we did. Rapping is what I do, is what my brother did, and this is how we pass down traditions. So economic wise, it wasn't really there because we grew up poor. Even having this cultural connection, it didn't provide us with any economic relief from it. It was more so our duty to be representatives of our arts and culture. And that's how a lot of cultures are created.
So my dad's family, as I said, he was raised very, very poor. Or I guess not raised, but grew up super poor, late Depression era, into, kind of post-Depression era. I remember him telling a story of his mom saying they needed scraps for the cat. They never had a cat, and he said he spent probably till age 5 or 6 looking for a cat. And then my mom's family was comfortable, upper middle class. My grandmother was a hairdresser in the 50s in North Miami Beach, 50s, 60s. So they were pretty comfortable there.
Well, like I was saying, there's a lot of entrepreneur seeds spread all throughout my family, especially on my mother's side. And because of my grandparents. But I think for a lot of my cousins and myself, we're at the place where we want to start building an economic legacy. Like they were able, our parents and our grandparents, they did what they could do in the constraints they have. But I see less constraints for us, but also a greater need to unify and to build what we call wealth, generational wealth. I think that's what's lacking. My grandfather had a 3rd grade education. My grandmother had a 6th grade education. So there was some things they didn't know, even though they knew education was important. They made sure their children went to school and so forth. But there's some things about passing wealth down, being able to pass how to generate wealth and keep wealth. That was lost. And so I feel that my cousins and myself, and hopefully we're instilling in our children even greater understanding of the importance of generational wealth so that we can continue to build and not have to start over every time someone comes into the world.
Probably pretty sparse at this point. Both of my parents, I think, have done quite well for themselves, but it's not going to be a legacy that gets passed along and reminded of having any kind of wealth, I think, to speak of. I think kind of quite a lot of Americans don't have very much to speak of after.
So I think I kind of just touched on it, already. I don't really know how to put that, in words. We do have stories of struggle on both sides, but then we also have stories of triumph. I have a little cousin who is killing the real estate game in Atlanta. So she picked up something from somewhere. My great aunt on my mother's side, who just passed away, worked herself up and bought her home on her own. So as such, her home is left now to her family of 8 children and all of their children. My grandmother, same thing. She kept her house. She passed away last year, and that's there for the rest of our family.
It's so interesting. I don't know how to answer this question because it's so. I think me and my brothers and sisters, my siblings and I think we are the generation that's going to define that now, because we had a single mom who was just making ends meet, and so being stable was something that was a luxury. But now I think, my siblings and I are embarking upon this new age of entrepreneurship. So all of us are looking at different ways to start businesses that we can collaborate with other people. Because, while you are an entrepreneur and it is your thing, we still have to cohabitate with one another and we have to coexist. And so collaborating, using, our business platform with other people is providing us with a different way of looking at finances and a different way of saying, okay, what are we looking at for the future? How are we setting up our retirement plans and my nephew's college fund, even though he's only 2, like we're looking at those things. So I think the legacy would be one of progression. What does it look like for us to progress? And one of, for me, residual income. How can I have my money make money for me without me working, So.
I do have a family like myself. I'm an artist, so I do come from a family of craftsmen and makers and things like that. So lots of people who did things that were sort of, functional in the house, like utilitarian. So carpenters, seamstresses. I also have a large part of my family that worked in some type of hospital capacity. A lot of service workers, of course, as well. So I don't know if we had a lot of, I wouldn't say like wealth in terms of just owning a lot of various, like a lot of different things, but I know we do have a good bit of land ownership in my family. In the area that I was raised here in Jacksonville, it's sort of a large, crazy as it is, like unpaved area of land that probably had about 7 or 8 houses on it, all owned by family, all still owned by family. All the land is still owned by family. And I do know that my family in Georgia does still own quite a bit of land also.
From my understanding, I think they on both sides come from not a super wealthy background. I know that once my grandfather on my dad's side migrated over, he kind of bought some land and did some various business stuff, but I think predominantly speaking, it came from kind of a low economic background, especially being educators in definitely the public school sector. That's not a super high profitable profession. So I think, we definitely made by, but it wasn't lobsters and scallops.
So with each generation of my family, we've gotten further and further to becoming well-off, sort of into the middle class. For my generation, for me and my siblings, we really wish to kind of advance that a lot more to bring more wealth into our family for future generations.
Again, not too much from grandparents at all, but they definitely did the best with what they had. More so from my parents, my father being a principal and my mother being an opera singer coming up in the house. Me and my sister, we never missed a meal. We were definitely viewed as above middle class. Looking back on it now, I could definitely say that I was raised with a silver spoon in my mouth compared to most other young black men. Me and my sister, we had both of our parents in the house. We always had clothes on our backs. We never had to wonder about anything. And I had aunts and uncles and cousins that also supported me and helped me with things that I wanted to do, like being able to have a drum set at 9 years old. I mean, not just like a little beat up one, that you get through Amazon. Like that was a real kit. We were taken care of. We were very well taken care of.